USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
I grew up in a military family, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. My biological father did 2 tours in Vietnam. My adopted father actually did 1 tour in Desert Storm. So I kind of knew what was going on, and I've heard stories to know, that it's going to be dangerous over there. Well, my first tour was actually 13 months long. We were over in Fob McHenry, up by Kirkuk in Iraq. And I was an infantryman at the time. We went out on patrols in the area to make sure the area was safe, make sure the town of Hawija was safe, make sure there was no, funny business going on out there. We got ambushed quite a bit while we were out there, so we got to return fire back to them. But the big battle that we were in was the Battle of Hawija. We just got back from a patrol that night and we laid down to go to sleep for the day. And I would say we were asleep for about maybe 3-4 hours, and then our door got knocked on from our platoon sergeant. I was an E5 sergeant, team leader at the time. As we got on the Humvee, we started heading back down to the town of Hawija, and Bravo Company was actually down there conducting an interview with one of the big people in that town. So when they were down there, what happened was they ended up getting ambushed. So it was a huge firefight going on. So we were the QRF and we were going there to help them out. When we did that, as we drove into Hawija, we went to the ING building, which was down in the corner of the town. We started hearing firefighting going on. So we knew there was something going on. When we pulled into the ING building, our squad jumped off the Humvee, and at that time the squad leader said, "Let's head out, we're moving." So we actually moved from one corner of the town to the far other corner of the town while taking firefight. We were taking on fire, we were returning fire, moving from building to building for cover. And when we got to the other side of the building is when we were lined up against a wall. At that time, our squad leader yelled RPG. As him and the second guy in the rank jumped out of the way, the rest of us, had to do what we had to do. I actually turned my back to where they were and ducked, and that's when the RPGs exploded. I got hit with shrapnel in the arm. Now, when I came up from turning my back to the crowd, all I saw was dust. As the dust cleared, everybody was laying on the ground. I didn't know if I was the only one there. I didn't know what was going on. So the concussion of the RPGs actually knocked down the wall behind us. And when that happened, we actually collected up our wounded and got in the compound where the wall was. So at that time, we had another squad that was on top of a roof that actually saw the whole thing. They saw what happened, so they called the commander, they called our sergeant first class, the platoon sergeant, and told him what happened. So when they came barreling into the compound, the platoon sergeant said, "Everybody that got hit, everybody that's bleeding, get on the Humvee, I'm getting you guys out of here." So I was the only one that actually stayed behind because 2 of the guys didn't get hit by shrapnel. One was the squad leader and one was one of my soldiers in my team. So that's not his responsibility to watch my soldier. It's my responsibility to make sure all my guys get home safe. So I actually changed out my M4 for a SAW and continued mission while I was wounded. I lost my mother at a young age. I was 12 years old, and when I actually went out there and conducted these firefights and had to do what I had to do, the thing that took a toll on me was I knew I was taking somebody's father away from them. I knew I was taking somebody's husband away from them. They think they're the good guys, we think we're the good guys. And I think that was the biggest thing that really affected me. When I got back from my first deployment, this was kind of funny. When I left, it was just my wife and I. When I came back, I had an instant family. All 3 of her kids from California came to live with us. My PTSD would kick in, and the anger issues, little anger issues that I had, but I had to really hold back because, they didn't deserve it. The first time I went out to the field about a year and a half later was NTC, our National Training Center in Fort Irwin. That was my first field problem I've been to since I've been to Iraq. So I was dealing with stuff okay, and I made sure the vehicle was up, and everything. But then a major came to me and tried to yell at me because the commander's comms weren't up. And on the brigade commander's vehicle, he has a commo guy. So when he came to talk to me about it, I snapped on him. And I said, well, the reason why his comms are up is because you're a piss poor leader and you're not doing your job by having your commo guy out here putting it together. But it was a lot worse than that. And so he got his butt hurt and went and talked to the leadership. So they moved me out from the gunner or the commander slot on the Stryker and put me in the S3 shop at brigade level. So I was helping our S3, which is operations. I was a part of the air defense. I was helping clear air for returning fire back on the field artillery. So as soon as when we had incoming, we would clear air and then our field artillery would shoot back at them. So I did a lot of that, a lot of planning flights for individuals, and that's where I spent my real second deployment, was in the S3 shop. So I didn't do the exact job, and I don't think I would have been able to handle that exact job, with the issues that I did have, but that was my second deployment. During my second deployment, I actually dropped my recruiting packet, and I came to Brooklyn, and when I was in Brooklyn, I liked the recruiting. I went from one extreme to the other, from taking lives to helping lives. It was one of those things where I was able to assist individuals in bettering their lives. So I changed to stay a recruiter for my MOS. We became a really tight-knit group there, and we were one of the #1 stations in New York City.
How are you dealing with retirement?
It's hard. It's hard dealing with supervisors that don't have good leadership qualities. When you're in the military, you know what you have to do. You have leaders that are there to assist you, and then when you move into the civilian world, it's completely different. With the military, you always teach your lower enlisted so they can eventually take your job when you move up. But in the civilian world, nobody tries to help you out with anything because they're afraid you're going to take their job. So it's something I'm getting used to, and that's why I started doing what I'm doing now. While I was in recruiting, I would go and I would talk to families about the military, and nobody would know anything about the military. Also, when you look around, you see a lot of veterans wearing the hats, and everybody goes up and thanks them, but they don't know anything about them. So what I did is, when I got out of the military, I knew I wasn't going to be able to continue working a civilian job or anything like that, but I've always wanted to get into entertainment. So when I got out, I had an older gentleman, Vietnam veteran era, Navy guy, who works with the public access in Staten Island. He does a show called In Honor Of, and he asked me to be a guest. So after I just retired, so I'm like, sure, why not? So I went there and they did an interview with me. And after the interview was over, Roe, the producer, came up to me and said, if you can find anybody you can interview, I'll give you your own show. So I was like, perfect, I'm running with it, and I've always wanted to do something in this line of work. So I started doing that, and I found out that with public access, I can only deal with nonprofit organizations or regular people. So I turned this whole process into a nonprofit so I can raise money to do these projects. And what I wanted to do is, I'm going to continue doing the show that I'm doing now, but the whole process is just to educate communities about the military and about their veterans, and to educate veterans about nonprofit organizations that are out there for our use, and just promote veterans and their families and give them a platform to tell their stories like this. The American Legion, VFW, Purple Heart, DAV, those are the organizations that are going to save your life. And I missed the military completely. And those groups are what keep me within the loop of the military and help me out. And I think if a lot of soldiers, a lot of veterans ended up getting within those communities, I don't think we would have as many suicides as we do within the veteran community, because they get out, they feel lonely, they feel overwhelmed, they feel like nobody cares about them, and that's when they end up going on a downward spiral. But if they get involved with these military communities and they go to these monthly meetings and they hang out with veterans, they are going to get that camaraderie feeling again, and they're going to know that they're loved, and it's going to help them out.